Bienvenidos a todos mi gente hispanohablante. Donald Trump está enfrentando una nueva crisis después de que una audiencia en el Senado terminara convirtiéndose en un desastre total para sus principales funcionarios de defensa. Pero lo que los republicanos y demócratas comenzaron a revelar sobre Irán y el dinero perdido y el caos militar está generando muchísima preocupación. La audiencia del Senado, que tuvo lugar hace pocos días, en la que participaron el secretario de Defensa Pete Hegseth, el jefe del Estado Mayor Conjunto, el general Dan Kane, y otros altos funcionarios de defensa, no les fue nada bien. No le fue bien al régimen de Donald Trump. Incluso los republicanos MAGA les reclamaron por permitir que Irán controle el estrecho de Hormuz. Lindsey Graham, republicano de MAGA y aliado de Donald Trump, estaba interrogando a Pete Hegseth y a Kane, y Lindsey Graham dijo: no es de extrañar que esta maldita cosa no vaya a ninguna parte por su culpa y por cómo el régimen de Donald Trump está manejando esto. Mira lo que dice Lindsey Graham. Miren el clip, por favor.
Pakistan. Are you aware of reports that Pakistan are allowing their bases to be used to park Iranian aircraft? General Kane?
Sir, I've seen one report on that.
Well, is it accurate?
Sir, I think based on the variety of classification matters.
Let me just say, do you agree if it is accurate, that is sort of inconsistent with it being a peace mediator?
Sir, I wouldn't want to comment on that based on the ongoing negotiations and Pakistan's role.
Secretary Hegseth, if the mediator is allowing reconnaissance aircraft in Iran to be parked in Pakistani air bases, do you think that's consistent with being a fair mediator?
I wouldn't want to get in the middle of these negotiations.
Yeah.
I want
well, I
maximum
do.
efficacy
I
for
want
our
to get in the
people.
middle of these negotiations. I don't trust Pakistan as far as I can throw them. If they actually do have Iranian aircraft parked in Pakistan bases to protect Iranian military assets, that tells me we should be looking maybe for somebody else to mediate. No wonder this damn thing is going nowhere.
Luego tuvimos a senadores demócratas como el senador Reid interrogando a Pete Hegseth, a Kane y a algunos otros altos funcionarios del Departamento de Defensa sobre cómo están subestimando los costos de la guerra por miles de millones de dólares al no incluir cosas críticas, cosas que cuestan bastante dinero, que ahora la estimación es de 29.000 millones de dólares, que subió 5.000 millones o 4.000 millones solo durante la propia audiencia. Está subestimando completamente las cosas aquí. Miren por favor.
Mr. Secretary, we have been trying to track down the expenditures in the Operation Epic Fury and Operation Freedom now. And we've sent letters and we've got very few responses. We've been sending letters since March 10th. We did understand that it was released that in the first 6 days, $11.3 billion was spent. And then recently we were told $25 billion was spent. Today, I think the number is $29 billion. Can you provide some details as to what consists of that $29 billion? Have we counted everything?
Yeah, Senator Reid. So I testified this morning to HACD that between the Joint Staff and the Comptroller staff, our operational cost estimate is now $29 billion. A lot of that increase comes from having a refined estimate on repair or replacement costs for equipment. Our munitions costs are fairly fixed. We think they're very accurate, and there's some O&M costs there as well. We're not making an estimate for MILCON at this time. We don't know what our future posture is going to be. We don't know how those bases would be reconstructed, and we don't know what percentage our allies and partners will pay for that reconstruction.
So you do not consider installations that have been damaged in the conflict, correct?
We just don't have a good estimate at this time.
So it's not in the $29 billion.
That's correct.
Expended weapons, are they totally included within the estimate?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, we have a full count of the expended weapons.
And weapons transferred to other countries in the region, are they counted in?
I would want to double check to make sure we have that accurately.
Please, I mean, you're coming up and asking for another significant supplemental, et cetera, and before we can, I think, reasonably appropriate additional money, we have to find out how the existing appropriated dollars have been spent. So that's critically important.
Y aquí fue el momento en el que los altos funcionarios del Departamento de Defensa comienzan a admitir que, en realidad sí, dijimos que eran 25.000 millones de dólares, pero ahora es realmente más. Escuche lo que tuvieron que decir aquí, por favor.
On April 29th, as you indicated to the ranking member, you said that the Iran war had cost $25 billion in total. You reaffirmed that today. Do you have any other updated costs or projections since that testimony that you've given? Outside reporting estimates have indicated that the war costs could be $1 billion a day. Do you have anything to share?
Yeah, thanks for the question, sir. So at the time of testimony in front of the ask, it was $25 billion. But the Joint Staff team and the Comptroller team are constantly looking at that estimate. And so now we think it's closer to 29. That's because of updated repair and replacement of equipment costs and also just general operational costs to keep people in theater.
Luego tuvimos al senador demócrata Murphy y aquí interrogó al general Kane. Y también interrogó a Pete Hegseth. Miren por favor el clip.
Drone program. The president said just a week ago that Iran maybe had 18 to 19% of their missile capacity left. But there is public reporting suggesting that our intelligence agencies say that Iran still has 70% of their missile and drone capability, which would be a failure of our objectives if that were to be true. What can you tell us about the number of missiles and drones that they have left, and do you dispute that intelligence estimate?
Sir, I'm not going to comment, with deep respect for the question, I'm not going to comment in this forum on what may or may not have been opined on by the IC, which would suggest a leak or a confirmation of any intel. So while I appreciate the question, I hope you'll also appreciate my not answering it.
Well, then just give me the president said that 80% of.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on BDA on either way, sir.
Well, then how do we or the American public assess the success of the mission when you've stated publicly the purpose of the mission is to destroy their missile and drone capability? How do we assess whether we should continue funding this if you can't state?
Well, I'm not going to answer what you guys in the Congress considers the decision criteria around continued funding or not. What I know is that I've not read the report that you're talking about. All of our battle damage assessment matters are classified, and it would be inappropriate for me to comment in this forum on that. And I appreciate the question, but I'm not going to answer it.
Let me just put it to Secretary Hegseth. The president said that 80% of their missile capacity had been destroyed. This public report says it's only 30%. Can you give us an answer as to what the real number is?
I mean, I would answer the same way as the chairman.
Not talking to this committee about the damage assessment?
Not validating leaked information that could be wrong or not wrong. Why would I validate what people may leak or not leak? This is not a classified setting. We don't talk about those things. You like to talk about them on TV. We don't talk about them here.
Luego escuchamos al senador demócrata Coons, quien, ya saben, increpó a Pete Hegseth, quien sirvió en Afganistán y dijo, sabes, te encanta atacar a la OTAN, pero te das cuenta de que la OTAN estuvo en el frente de batalla con nosotros y nuestros aliados de la OTAN. Ellos perdieron muchísimos miembros de servicio, ¿recuerda eso? Y luego Pete Hegseth, el secretario de Defensa de Estados Unidos, responde algo como, no tengo las cifras exactamente enfrente de mí. Y de nuevo, el régimen de Donald Trump continúa atacando a la OTAN. Solo miren lo absolutamente tontos, poco preparados y trastornados que lucen estos funcionarios del Departamento de Defensa del régimen de Donald Trump. Miren, por favor.
About the troops. Thank you. Our president said in Europe that we never asked for and never received anything from our NATO allies. Was that your experience in Afghanistan, serving and fighting alongside our NATO allies?
I've written extensively about that, and the vast majority of my experience was frustration with the limits of what those troops were able to do because of the political caveats, rules of engagement, and limits that came from their
capitals. But you don't doubt or question that about a third of all the combat casualties in our war in Afghanistan were our NATO partners and allies.
I would have to go back and check that number, but I take your word for it.
Let me just assert that hundreds and hundreds of service members from, as you put it, Australia, the United Kingdom, as well as many other of our allies, served, fought, and died alongside us. So I'm just going to simply say, in terms of our reliance on our partnerships, I'll agree with the chairman that at a moment when Russia and China, North Korea and Iran are coming closer together and delivering a bedeviling lethality in this ongoing war in Iran, for which we don't have a clear strategy or clear answers, our better strategy would be to partner more closely with Ukraine, dig in deeper with our real values-based allies, our treaty allies in the Western Pacific and in Europe, and together find a path out of this, rather than berating them and bullying them for not coming along in a war they were not consulted about or briefed on before it began.
Luego tuvimos al senador demócrata Durbin interrogando al jefe del Estado Mayor Conjunto, Dan Kane, a quien llaman Racing. Racing Durbin tiene una pregunta básica. ¿Podría explicarle al pueblo estadounidense el porqué de esta vasta inversión por la que vienen aquí pidiendo mucho más dinero? Ustedes quieren un presupuesto de defensa de $1 billón ahora mismo. El año pasado fue de $1 billón. El año anterior a ese fue de $700 millones. Si no pueden, ya saben, abrir el estrecho de Hormuz, ¿por qué deberíamos de darles más dinero? Si la última vez que les dimos $1.000 millones, el resultado fue peor que el de años anteriores. Miren esto, por favor.
Could you explain to the American people why, with the vast investment we've made in national defense and military, how Iran, after they've been attacked by us, is still capable of stopping the traffic in the Straits of Hormuz?
Well, sir, it's a complex situation out there with a lot of different small boats that are out there and other capabilities. Some of this is on the commercial traffickers. Some of this is on, again, back to the main problem, and that's Iran holding the global economy hostage through the Straits. I would encourage them to think wisely about their next moves and to take the opportunity to open the Straits. They have that choice to make.
They certainly do. I guess the question in my mind is, as we talk about $1 trillion plus budgets for our military, it appears that a very small budget is holding us hostage in the Straits of Hormuz.
Entonces, Pete Hegseth dijo, solo quiero recordar al senador Durbin que hemos estado en la guerra con Irán durante 47 años, así que en realidad es una guerra de 47 años. Esta es su línea que repiten una y otra vez hasta el cansancio. Hemos estado en una guerra por 47 años. Esto solo es parte de una guerra de 47 años. No se cansan de usar esto para justificar todo. Miren, por favor.
As it pertains to, I actually didn't get a chance to reply to Senator Durbin, who said that Iran was attacked by us. I would take issue with that. For 47 years, we've been attacked by Iran, and they've been lying to pursue a nuclear weapon, and President Trump had the courage to do something about it.
Luego, más de Pete Hegseth poniéndose performativamente indignado, como dice Herrera, en lugar de responder preguntas muy básicas del senador Chris Coons. Miren, por favor.
The connection between their ability to close the Strait of Hormuz using fast boats and Shahed drones and our strategic goal, shared broadly, to prevent them from ever having a usable nuclear weapon is utterly unclear to me. And my question was, what's the plan for reopening the Strait of Hormuz to commercial traffic, given
shared broadly but never
prices?
Executed? Shared broadly but never executed because previous administration didn't have the willingness to actually do what it would take. And when Iran was at its weakest moments following the 12-day war, but still wanted the pursuit of a nuclear capability, President Trump made the courageous decision to go at their conventional umbrella and shield, which they were using to protect their nuclear program, which we knew came with threats and branches and sequels.
My concern, Mr. Secretary.
Luego hubo un interrogatorio por parte de la senadora Murkowski. Miren, por favor.
It doesn't appear that hostilities have ended. And so the question to you is whether or not the administration has considered or had intended to seek an authorization of use of military force from the Congress.
Senator, our view is that should the president make the decision to recommence, that we would have all the authorities necessary to do so.
Do you think that it would be helpful to the president if it was made clear that, in fact, the Congress did provide an AUMF?
I think the president, our view is that he has all the authorities he needs under Article 2.
Y luego tuvimos a la senadora demócrata Shahen de New Hampshire interrogando a Pete Hegseth. Miren, por favor.
Senator, we know Russia is a nefarious actor on a lot of levels and account for that, but I would say the destruction of Iran's defense industrial base has been highly
all
effective
evidence to the contrary. We're not accounting for that if we're giving Russia the opportunity to earn $4 billion a month, $20 billion by the end of the year if we leave those sanctions lifted for that time, during which they can continue to fund Iran.
Well, the destruction of Iran's defense industrial base has been clear and overwhelming. The destruction of Iran's defense industrial base has been clear and overwhelming.
Well, it's certainly not clear to me as a member of the committee, because what we see is Iran still producing drones. They're still engaged in this conflict. We have not won this war.
There's a difference between
the rhetoric.
Pulling a drone out of a cave that's been collapsed and producing more drones. That's a different thing.
Well, maybe so. But if Iran still has almost 50% of their missile capacity and the ability to pull drones out of caves and still injure our allies and U.S. service members, then we have not won the war.
Luego la senadora Patty Murray dijo, entonces, su posición es que los estadounidenses deberían de renunciar a la atención médica, a su Medicaid, a su Medicare y otras cosas que necesitan para vivir, todo para darle más dinero al ejército. Exactamente 1.5 billones de dólares. ¿Cómo usted está de acuerdo con esto? Miren el clip, por favor.
Right now, Mr. Secretary, people are paying $4, $5, even $6, $7 for gas, and American taxpayers are now on the hook as well for paying for this disastrous war. You're spending families' hard-earned tax dollars on a war that many strongly oppose, and you're forcing people to pay more at the pump, and yet you're not even providing a real breakdown for the cost of this war so far. We have no real details, you have indicated that, and yet now you want Congress to send you $1.5 trillion more. To me, that is unacceptable, and I hope our Republican colleagues will join us in not only rejecting that absurd request, but in insisting that the American people get the actual answers on how much money, their money, we are spending on this. Now, let me turn and say, Secretary Hegseth, the president has called Medicaid, Medicare, and child care little scams and said, quote, "We're fighting wars, we cannot take care of daycare." I'm just trying to understand that. Is it your position, since you're asking taxpayers for another $500 billion for the war, that American families should be forced to give up child care and health coverage so that you can have $1.5 trillion for this budget?
Senator, that's not my department. I certainly support this, and I also support the president's efforts to find and remove fraud wherever possible in a general sense.
I'm not talking
and we
about
do that
fraud.
in our department as well.
I'm not talking about fraud. I actually asked whether an American family should lose their health care or their child care to pay for this budget. That is literally what the president suggested.
The president has proposed a historic $1.5 trillion budget that will defend the nation and confront threats like Iran, which previous presidents allowed to happen, as Senator Graham pointed out.
Well,
previous administrations said they wanted to take care of this problem, and they did not, and he's doing it.
This committee, the question in front of the American people is, what are they being asked to give up for this $1.5 trillion? That's where I was talking about.
Y luego Pete Hegseth deja claro, bajo el interrogatorio del senador Coons, que todavía se niega a gastar los fondos asignados por el Congreso para apoyar a Ucrania. Miren el clip, por favor.
For Ukraine. So far, your department has not spent a dime of that $400 million, despite repeated follow-up requests from the chairman and myself. In a call just last week, your staff indicated we will see a spend plan for those funds this week. Will you commit to spending those $400 million for weapons for Ukraine? And when will we receive your department's spend plan?
I appreciate that question. The $400 million for European capacity building has been released from the Secretary of War's office, and we'll work with EUCOM to make sure they spend it accordingly and properly, which we have all faith that they will.
Mr. Secretary, when will this subcommittee get the associated spend plan for the $400 million?
Yeah, I mean, we will work with your committee to make sure that the spend plan as allocated, I want to make sure EUCOM is fully informed in how they want to spend this. They're the closest to the problem set. And so working with them to ensure that you have the spend plan, we'll work with you.
Mr. Secretary, thank you, but it's May, and this has been the law since January, and you or your representatives have been asked this repeatedly on a bipartisan basis by members of this committee. And I think dragging our feet on this small investment in Ukraine's defense sends exactly the wrong signal to Putin at a time when the contest for freedom has its front lines in Ukraine.
Luego, cuando tuvimos a Pete Hegseth frente al Comité de Apropiaciones Demócratas, verán aquí al congresista Aguilar haciendo preguntas muy básicas como ¿nos proporcionará una contabilidad? Hegseth responde algo como cuando sea relevante y requerido. Y luego el congresista Aguilar le dice sí, de eso se trata esta audiencia. Aquí es donde es relevante y requerido. Esta es la audiencia donde usted le dice a la supervisión qué es lo que está haciendo aquí. Miren el clip, por favor.
Mr. Secretary, when can you share more formal accounting on the cost of the war with Congress and with this committee?
We'll share what we can. I think we've updated on that number this morning, but when it's relevant and required, we will share it.
I think this would be the format that it would be required.
Y luego tuvimos al senador McConnell en muy mal estado, quiero decir completamente mal. Él y Donald Trump se ven muy similares ahora mismo, en mi opinión. Y aquí McConnell básicamente dice, muy bien, vamos a cerrar esta audiencia ahora. Y todavía hay como múltiples de personas que tenían preguntas y luego su personal tuvo que decirles que habían personas en la sala. Vengan las otras personas en la sala. Es el mismo tipo de cosas que estamos viendo de Donald Trump también. Esto es lo que dice McConnell. Miren, por favor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, here's where we are. The vote is about over. The Secretary has to get with the President on the China trip. I'm going to ask Senator Murkowski to wrap up. And thank you all for being here.
Baldwin, Shaheen, and Kennedy. Baldwin, Shaheen, and Kennedy still have questions. Wrap up after.
Hold here. Yeah, obviously there's not a whole lot of time for a second round, so we'll get through everybody. And Senator Murkowski, I appreciate your taking over.
Thank you. Secretary Hegseth, Chairman Kane, thank you for being here today.
Y bien amigos, esto sería todo por el día de hoy. Espero de todo corazón que les haya gustado. Si fue así, por favor, díganme su opinión en los comentarios. Recuerden que para mí, su opinión siempre va a ser lo más importante. También les recuerdo que en este canal subimos contenido de noticias estadounidenses reales y con pruebas, claro, todos los días. Así que si no quieren perderse toda esta información verídica, les recomiendo que se suscriban al canal y activen la campanita para que YouTube les avise cada vez que subimos un video. Sin nada más que decir, mi nombre es José Alvarado, soy economista y estoy comprometido a informarlos diariamente. Nos vemos en el siguiente video. Adiós.